It's all about the macro productions.
What does the goddamn line say, Tony?
Please do not use gendered language.
Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail?
Well, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with Daylight NBC.
Jack Marius Tack-Theratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him.
Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Mumbai Kutapi.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Sorting through the lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site, if you can believe that.
We cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan for world domination.
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Swangles and Fort Lauderdale?
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up the Sears hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, Macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host,
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you are watching us on Rumble, Fan.video, Vigilante TV, or you are listening wherever podcasts are served, thanks a million. We appreciate your support. We know you have plenty of choices out there. If you haven't already, please consider rating the show. If you think we've done a good job, give us 5 stars. If you want to connect with me, the website is macroaggressions.io. There's information about the podcast, the books, the news sites. It's all there. There's a whole lot going on. We appreciate our sponsors who make this show happen. Legal Shield has been in business for half a century in the United States and Canada. They'll get you access to a high-powered attorney in your area for a very reasonable rate. How reasonable? How about $1 a day? $30 a month is the rate to get you in the door and get you access to Legal Shield. Do you have a last will and testament or a power of attorney or a medical directive? You've got to have these. You just have to have these documents, and nobody wants to go to an attorney and get them because it's going to cost quite a bit of money. But if you're a member of Legal Shield, you can knock that out in the first week of having the program. You're going to get an app on your phone, which will allow you to just push a few buttons and a drop-down menu will appear, and you can tick all the boxes of the legal documents that you need. And then the attorney in your area will contact you within the next 24 hours. Set up a time for you to come in and take care of it. It's very easy. They made this program user-friendly, and there's a whole lot of uses for Legal Shield. If you're somebody who runs a small business, they have a small business program. If you carry a gun, they have documentation for that. If you need identity shield, reputation management, credit watching, they have all of that. There's all these a la carte items that you can add to your membership. So if you're interested, I say just read up about it at the website that they built specifically for us. Go to don'tgetpushedaround.com. Check it out. See what you think. If you find something that you like, go ahead and pull the trigger on it. It's some of the best money you'll ever spend. I get my money's worth from Legal Shield all the time. So don'tgetpushedaround.com. Check that out. Also, to our good friends at Chemical Free Body, if you are somebody who wants supplements but know that it's a very scammy industry and half of them don't work, well, good news is that Tim James and the crew over at Chemical Free Body have built outstanding products that actually work. The Green 85 has been something I've incorporated into my daily routine now for we're coming up on 5 years. It's fantastic. Do the detox bundle. It's a detox in a box. You can get Green 85 and a couple of other capsules that you take in the morning. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. But the question is, are you ready to change your life and take control of your health? You can do it, but you got to get honest with yourself. Go to chemicalfreebody.com/macro. The link is down in the show notes as well, and see what you think. There's outstanding products that actually work, and Chemical Free Body has been a great resource for everybody. Thank you to the folks over there. chemicalfreebody.com/macro to get started. Well, now that we've got the business out of the way, I want to introduce you to author Barbie Rivera. Her book, Enough is Enough, is available. And boy, Barbie, I wish you didn't have to write this book, but unfortunately, this is the world that we live in. So the next best thing is to have you on here to talk about it. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad to have you on, because your story resonates with me, and a lot of, I think, the listeners will connect with what you went through in 1991. Let's just start from the beginning. Who are you? What happened? You didn't set out to write a book. I bet you wish you didn't have to write this book. But what was the impetus for putting this together, and how your life changed early in the 90s?
Well, sorry for the background noise. I have a dog that woke up. She will go back to sleep. Well, I come from a large family, so I always figured I'm going to continue large family. My goal actually was 8 children. And I know politically you're not allowed to say being a mom was the best thing I ever did, but being a mom was really the best thing I ever did. I had 4 children. I was pregnant at the time that my oldest son went to 1st grade. And Damon is part Cuban. He was the first grandchild of the Cuban side of the family. He spoke both languages. Gorgeous boy, inside and out. Never threw a tantrum, never cried at the grocery store, never whined. And he was like, if I said, Damon, it's time to go to bed, he's like, okay, Mom. Damon, it's time to clean up your toys. Okay, Mom. And here he is, fresh haircut, Ninja Turtle, Velcro shoes, lunchbox, and he's ready for school. And I'm like, they're going to love him, thinking that he's going to have the same experience I did when I went to 1st grade. I think I was in 1st grade in 1970. And the teacher was an older woman. She was probably in her early 60s. Knew how to play the piano, which I think was a requirement for teachers back then. We had 3 recesses, 1 in the morning, 1 right after lunch, and then 1 in the afternoon. There was no homework. There was no standardized testing. We had parents in the classroom to help with various things. It was fun. It was no stress. And I'm like, they're going to love my son. It wasn't even 2 weeks in. It was the 2nd Friday. The teacher pulls me aside and says, quote, your son is mentally handicapped and he's most likely going to need psychotropic drugs for the rest of his life. And I'm like, so that he could learn. I'm like, how did he learn Spanish fluently without these drugs? How did he learn to dress himself? How did he learn to make a peanut butter sandwich? Like he's 6, but he could do basic things without drugs. And I asked the teacher why, and she says, well, he confused the D and the B. I'm like, well, they look alike. He doesn't confuse a cow and a water bottle. And if my son was special needs, I'm his advocate anyway. And I'm not one of these parents that if a neighbor tells me, hey, your son said the curse word, where I'm like, how dare you say that about my son? I know kids. So right. I'm not that parent. But to hint that he's going to need a lifelong of medication because he confuses the B and the D is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. He also believed in Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. So are we going to say he is, I don't know, intellectually or schizophrenic because he's out of reality? I'm like, that's my create as a parent. That's part of the fun of being the parent, is painting that whole picture. And that's part of the fun of being a child, is you're growing up with that magic. And the school system just was like, we're going to take it away from you. So I argued on the reading point. I'm like, look, it's not that he can't read. He just isn't reading right now. He hasn't learned. Like, let's be real. He also can't drive a car. So let's just make a permanent restriction on his driver's license. Like, what are we doing? Like, it just made no sense to me. But yet the school system was very set in their ways. Now, when I ask, they go, but he also confuses the 6 and the 9. And I'm like, okay, they look the same. I can understand why. And I made a joke. I was like, I'll take Damon off of all financial responsibilities. He will no longer write checks for the family. Thinking, that's hilarious. Oh my God, I'm about to get labeled now. Like they're going to put me in a white coat in a room. I don't know. Anyway, I did the worst thing that I could think of. Well, actually, I was doing the best I could at the time because this was late August and I was due to have baby number 4 in November. So I'm right there towards the end. And I'm like, I can't homeschool him. I'm going to destroy him. I'm going to wreck him. And I feel like looking back that I left my son in a burning building, knowing that the flames are on the first floor because I saw my son decline throughout the whole year. I got the first row view of this bright boy, eager for the weekend, eager to set up a tent on the dining room table so he could, like explore, get a telescope. Oh my God, walkie-talkies, huge. He just lost the love for all of it. And at the end of first grade, the school system taught him one thing, and he said it. I would never say it. Mom, I'm stupid. And that was, I could cry right now because no child, whether they're special needs or not, should feel that way, especially when they're 6. So at the time, I'm like, I can't do this to my son. And I had this vision, if you'll say, of my son being 12 and no longer trusting me as a parent, smoking pot, sneaking out at 12. And I'm like, if I don't jump on this now, if I don't get on his side now, because I haven't been on his side, I'm being the good mom, helping him with the homework, forcing down his throat. It's still going down his throat. I'm making it a little easier, but I'm not eliminating the problem. So I took him out of school, not knowing anything. 2 kids in diapers. His sister was 4. My son, Adam, was 1, and Michael was a newborn. And I took him out. And I told my friends, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start a homeschool. And that's what I did. And I had 7 other children the first week. And this was right after Hurricane Andrew. Like the cover of my book is my yard after Hurricane Andrew.
Oh, wow.
Destroyed it. And that's when I started. And it took me 2 years to get my son back, to get that confidence back. And what's interesting is his brothers and sisters never went through the educational oppression, really, of we're going to show you how wrong you are. And we're going to drug you on it. We know the drugs don't work. We know that, it doesn't work conceptually. It just doesn't work. But it took me 2 years to get his confidence back. And I'm like, my other children never set foot in the school. And they were
good.
They're all different. If they were born on the same day, they could all be born to almost a different family because they have different likes, different dislikes, different speeds of acceptance of information, different things they would do with the information. But they were all brilliant. And I couldn't overlook that fact. Anyway, so that was 33 years ago. And my homeschool kept growing and I kept getting more kids with similar stories. Because, it's like, if we're going to, well, let me back up. I'm a parent that I read stories to my children every night. There was a schedule. There was accountability. When we finished dinner, we all washed the dishes. Everybody can do something. Even the one in diaper can put a spoon from Hey, take this spoon, put it in the sink. Yeah, it takes 10 times longer and it's a pain in the ass. Sorry, but you get them contributing when they're young and then they feel like they're doing something. Then after dinner, we play a board game. And do I really want to play a board game? Not really, but this is called family. So this is what I do for years and years and years and years. And I'm like, and here's a son who reflected that very well when he was 6. You could look at him and you could tell he was well loved. He was governed. He wasn't allowed to do whatever he wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And the school targeted him. They didn't give him a chance to work it out.
What was it that he was doing in the first 2 weeks that made those teachers think that he had some sort of cognitive disability? Besides, the D's and B's sounds like dyslexia, maybe. I don't know. But
no, it wasn't at all. Still. He needed practice. I'm like, okay, let's go to that. If you give a set of car keys to a 1-year-old, they put it in their mouth. Right. By the time they're 16, they know what to do with them. By the time they're 5, they know what they are. You have to let it go. You can't say, oh, he's got some whatever. Because now there's a label for everything. A label for everything. So they said that I didn't let them label him. So I never got something official. And people were throwing, I'm like, dyslexia. I'm like, he's not. He just needs practice. He also sometimes put the right shoe on the left shoe. So we're going to solve that by putting dots in the shoes. That's it. These are easy fixes. This is what children do. They're working it out. That's called growing up. So really it was the B and the D. And check this out, the homework. He had homework the first week. He had to write a book report. And I'm like, he can't read. So, the state standards show that writing book reports develops critical thinking and we're doing an early intervention. I'm like, you're going to kill him. He's going to hate writing. He's going to hate reading. He already hates school. We're only 2 weeks in.
Right.
Like we're going to destroy it all. Which is what I don't have any ill will against teachers because I think their job is impossible under a traditional school system, but it's not for the child. It's not for the child. I go in and I see the beautiful bulletin boards and I see the little art stations. And I'm like, my son's going to love it here. And they destroyed it. He was in the Black Widow spider that was all glittery. It was pretty, but he's going to get it.
Well, they didn't diagnose him. Did they try to diagnose you?
No. Well, they thought I was crazy. They're like, oh, here comes this mom. Look at her. She's got a stroller. She's got, what people say. People are going to say whatever they're going to say. Oh, she thinks she knows. Well, I have a degree. I'm like, good. Well, your degree should not result in my child feeling stupid. If you have a degree, you should be able to teach him. And then I went one further because, magically, to me, things happen. And I write about this in my book. In the 4th grade, in a reading, the readers, where it's a different story each week, you do questions and answers, you get in a group, you discuss. And the story, I tried to find this book. I can't find it, but I'm still on the hunt for it because I don't know if it was Open Highways. I don't know what the series was, but I got my radar out on it. Anyway, the title was Set Me Free. And it was Helen Keller. And reading it, I couldn't believe what I was reading. I'm like, how could someone teach a blind, deaf, mute girl to communicate? And yet her tutor did that. And she did it in 3.5 weeks. It wasn't even a month. She had to put the law down, take the girl away from the parents who were part of the problem, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, how would my father, who's also an artist, teach me the color blue if I was blind? If I couldn't hear his voice, Anyway, it really impacted me. So with my son, I'm like, he can see, hear, and speak 2 languages. And you're saying he's more disabled than Helen Keller? That's ridiculous. That's horrific. It's a lie, is what it is. So I took issue with it. And I ended up taking him out of school.
Did they try to medicate him before you took him out of school?
No, they wanted me to. There's a process of that. And I would not even let the first process get done where they were going to do an evaluation. Because it's all bogus. Like, again, I fully detail this. So the diagnosis for learning disabilities. Okay, so now, first of all, there are children who are born with disabilities. I'm not talking to that population. I'm talking to the population of normal children who are being labeled for normal childhood behavior. That's the population I'm talking to. So I don't want to upset anybody, but that's the population I'm talking to. So the way they diagnose is off a checklist. And these checklists can be 30 criteria, 150 criteria. And okay, so now we're going to prod and probe, and we're all going to stand back with our pens and pencils and do our check boxes. And he was sitting at his desk, and a police car went by, sirens blazing, and he looked up. Oh, ADHD. Because that's one of I'm serious. That's one of the things. Sloppy handwriting is a criteria for learning disabilities, but they don't teach handwriting anymore. Just saying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, where on this checklist do we ask the child anything? What kind of parent does he have? Do they read stories to him or her every night? Does he have a stable dinner time? Is it a 1-parent household, a 2-parent household? How does the parent teach him? Why don't we have the child rate the parent and then have the child rate the teacher? I think that would, if we're going to do rating, which I don't think we should, but then I think that the child needs to be involved as well. Like one of my children, twice before he was 5, wild birds landed on his shoulders. Once was a little sparrow and once was a crow, like a crow. And he named it instantly Jake. He's like, hey, Jake. And I'm like, and he comes in the house, I'm washing dishes. He goes, hey, Mom, I have made a new friend. His name is Jake. And I turn around and it is like a crow. And I'm like, well, hello, Jake. Can we go outside now? Because I'm freaking out, but I don't want to panic my son who seems perfectly fine with this. Anyway, I look at that and I'm like, this kid is gifted, like with animals. I've never had a wild bird land on me, ever. I've never known anybody who has a wild bird land on him twice. So when we got to reading and writing with Adam, all he wanted to learn about was animals. I'm like, okay, perfect. I let the aunts, the uncles, the grandpas, the grandmas, the abuelos, the abuelas, the tios, all of them know. We're putting together a library of books for Adam, for animals. And by the time he was 10, he had probably read, on his own origination, 250 books. And he had rescued a bird. Like, he knew what to do. He was very well versed in this. And he never lost interest in reading. And at math time, I would have him make up word problems. And his word problems were ridiculous. A hungry snake stole 5 eggs from a bird's nest. And the next day, it was like this big dramatic thing about the animals eating each other. But he was getting the math in, and he was being creative with it. If I would have forced him to, no, we're not going to do animals, I would have lost him. Because we all only pursue what we're interested in. That's not a mental illness. It's classified as one for a child.
Yeah.
Only motivated to do things they're interested in. I'm like, that's me.
That's all of us.
That's all of us.
Who were. So when you you became a homeschool teacher with, I'm assuming not many people are trained for this. You probably were figuring it out as you went along. How did this process work? You mentioned that he once he came out of the schools, he regained that spark. Is that correct?
2 years it took me to regain the spark.
Okay.
But he was devastated. Like, I gave him a page that was color triangles, and it had 3 obvious triangles, a circle, a square, and a star. And he would say, I can't do it. And I'm like, okay, pick up your crayon. Can you pick up your crayon? And he would hold it like, like no motivation at all. And I'm like, and I had to keep my daughter, who was 4, and my daughter was hilarious in her own right. She would look at his coloring. It's like, what is that? You're coloring out of the lines. The lines go like this. The A goes like this. Like, she was Mrs. like standard. This is how a B looks. It doesn't look like that, So I kept him at the opposite end of the table. She was doing harder work than he was, but he was convinced he couldn't do it. Yeah. But I'll tell you, for me, the key with that, I mean, that's devastating to be 6 years old. He was 7 when he had turned 7 over the summer. But the saving grace on that one was I opened up what is now called a micro school. That terminology did not exist back then.
Right. So
when I first started homeschooling, I'm like, I'll take second graders and I'll take kindergartners. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm like, I can't ruin them all, So second graders, because that was the grade my son was in. And I took kindergartners because that was the grade my daughter was in. And plus I have 2 in diapers. So if and I had a dear friend of mine had a 5th grader. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not taking him. Like, I'm just like, my hands are full already. I charged what I charged. It covered the rent, not much more. Covered the rent, the food, and the diapers and all of that. Not much more. But my son, with his friends, did not want to show that he did not know. So that's what ended up motivating him to do better.
How was the socialization component of this? When that's always the knock that homeschoolers get. Oh, we don't want them to go to school because then they'll be socially retarded. And you go, well, have you been to schools? Have you seen what's going on there? So how was that interaction?
It was great. My house, believe it or not, was calmer with 12 kids in it than it was with my 4, because they entertained themselves. And again, I don't want to say I'm a tough mom. I think I'm a fair mom, but you can't bring the water hose. You can't have a water fight in the house. Like, I'm not going to put up with that. Feet off the sofa. I'm going to tell you that. You say the word damn, hey, language. Like, that's most of my day. I'm a mom. But the socialization was actually really, really strong. And this is a whole other thing, but I started a little club with my kids. And I'm like, guys, we are going to take responsibility for Miami. We're going to adopt a police station. We're going to adopt a fire station. We're going to adopt the local dog pound. And I geared it around the calendar. On Earth Day, we would do something Earth Day related. And we ended up becoming really good friends with Miami Children's Hospital, their volunteer area. And they asked us, I'm like, give us a project. We want to do something for you. Realizing that I have little kids on up to like 8-year-olds. And they're like, we need crayons. I'm like, got it. So I put the word out with all of my friends. Charlie, if you would have been one of my friends, I'm like, send me $10. We're going to get crayons. And we ended up getting, I don't know, like $150 together. No nonprofit or anything like that. Just give me $10. We went to Target and Walmart. They matched us and we got Crayola crayons, which then when we showed up at the hospital, all the kids had their crayons and they baked muffins. We did a whole thing. And the staff were very happy that we did Crayola, not these waxy things. And I'm like, why would we give a child who's already suffering like crappy art supplies? So right there started something. And the kids started thinking of things we could do in the neighborhood. And so the socialization was actually really good because part of the homeschooling, and I drilled it every day, were manners. How to say hello to somebody, the eye contact, how to shake someone's hand, how to offer water when somebody comes into the house. So when we would go out, we would get stopped all the time by strangers. Like, what is this? Because this is like, these kids are so polite and they're so pleased and thank you. And they're not wild and crazy and whining. I'm like, of course not. Of course not. They reflect me. And they weren't all my children, but it was like, anyway, that was part of the homeschooling. That's part of the stuff that I love is when you can take real life information and impart it to a child who is 4 or 5, and you can show them how to properly set the table. Or you tell them, manners comes from the Spanish word mano, which is hand. It's how you handle people. If people want to be around you, you tend to have good manners. If they don't, that's on you because you probably have bad manners. Decide what you want to do. Anyway, all of that was really good. So the socialization wasn't an issue at all. And I don't think it is. I think it's a lie that people try to tell
I think
themselves.
it is too.
Oh, they want friends. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that as well. I have friends who grew up homeschooled and I asked, where did you get your socialization that they say is lacking? And said, well, we did sports. I said, well, how'd you do sports if you weren't at a school? And they said, well, there's ways around that. You can join these teams and leagues and things like that. We got our socialization, and they were super athletes too. So of course they were probably looked upon with great reverence for being athletically gifted and maybe didn't ever get the, oh, you guys are homeschooled weirdos that don't know how to interact with other people. I think that is slowly getting figured out. A lot of people are going, yeah, I don't know that homeschooling necessarily equates with weirdness, especially given the current weirdness going on in schools. I think that there's probably a much better case can be made that staying at home with your parents and getting educated is a better route. What about the pushback from your family members or peers? I'm sure there was a lot of people parachuting in with comments like, you're not qualified. What are you doing here? What are you teaching people?
Okay, so I'm in Miami. I was born and raised in Cincinnati, turned 18, hit the road. Because that's what you did when I was, it's like you rented a place and there was like 19 people on the lease, you can't do that anymore.
Right.
So you pack your bag, you're like, see you later. So that's what I did. My parents were, I wouldn't say they were livid. They were extremely concerned. Barbara, you're not going to be able to do this. You've never gone to school past high school. They're going to be eating paint because I'm an artist. I'm like, I'll make sure it's non-toxic. So I did not go home with the kids every year because that was a lot. It was more than what I could afford, but I did go back and forth. And I remember there was a time that I went home. I think Damon was now 10. So the spread would have been, or no, maybe Damon was 9 because the little one was still in diapers. My parents were so impressed at how well spoken the kids were. And Adam, the animal guy, my dad took him down to the local bookstore. They live in a great little place. They lived in a great little area of Cincinnati called Oakley. And within 1 block was the ice cream shop that my father worked at when he was 17. It was still there. A little children's bookstore, little cafes. And so you could do everything within walking distance. So my dad took Adam to the bookstore and they got some big book where you have a magnifying glass and you have to hunt for these animals that are camouflaged. We're like so pro homeschooling after that visit. Was like, oh my gosh, these kids are amazing. They're fun. They're funny. They look out for each other. They don't get into fights. They're not whining. They're honest. They tell you if they don't know something. They tell you, hey, I don't understand that. I don't know what that is. And they had a wonderful time. And then they were on board because they see that the kids are intelligent.
Right.
They're not being harmed.
Right. That's the assumption, is that you're going to be out of, and I think that there are some parents who obviously should not be homeschooling children that are they're dangerous parents, but they're not looking to homeschool. Typically, those aren't the ones that are doing it. They're looking to outsource that to the public schools who take the children away. But were you able to keep that core group together as they aged?
I was able to keep some of them, and a handful of them. Like I have this boy, I'm going to call him by his real name, Miguel. He is, my gosh, he has to be 40 now. When he was 9, he had just come from Ecuador with his family. He didn't speak any English. I'm like, okay, no issue. We can handle that. And and he was the same age as my son, Damon. And I'm like, Miguel, what do you want to do? He goes, I want to fix computers. I want to learn about electronics. I'm like, okay, so here's the deal. You stay on point with your math and your grammar, your behavior, excellent. And we're going to start a little business where we're going to go around to the neighbors and we're going to let them know that you are going to fix their electronics. I mean, we're talking, 20 something years ago. And the neighbors all knew I was homeschooling, and who's not going to contribute to this? So he hand wrote invoices, and they would give him a blow dryer or a blender. And he wrote on it, if I fix it, you owe me $5 plus parts. And if I don't fix it, you can't sue me, which I was like, it was his
great.
thing. And he was making money. He started making money. Now he has his own computer, website design. He does Miami. He does South America. He handles my school for me. Whenever there's an issue, I'm like, Miguel, I need help. And he's like, okay, I got you, Mom. He calls me Mom, even though his mom is very much in his life. And his sisters are like my daughters. And I had them from the age of 4 all the way to graduate. And they are like sincerely like family to me. Not all of them stayed with me. And it was a small group. But yeah, like my family grew. So I wanted my 8 children. I ended up with more than that. Though only 4 stayed with, only 4 were my own.
And you have the benefit of hindsight now and looking back on this happening a long time ago. How'd the kids turn out that went through your program?
Yes. Well, and I can tell you, and it's nothing that you can say honest, and it's sad. You can't say this in social circles. My children have no interest in drugs. My children have no interest in alcohol. But there are so many people out there that lost their children to drugs, to fentanyl, to some online challenge. Hey, let's do this with aerosols. I'm like, these kids have no clue. They don't have that judgment, which really is what education should do, is get you to think for yourself. Not like my son Adam was a perfect test for me, because I don't really care about snakes, lizards, turtle. I don't care. It's not like I'm going to speed up to run them over or anything like that, and if there's a hurt animal in the yard, I will do my citizen's best to solve it. But Adam was invested. I can't tell him that I don't like snakes and expect him, oh, well, my mom doesn't like snakes, so I guess I can't help snakes. I'm like, I can't put my own prejudice, so to speak, on his interest in animals. So I supported that interest, and man, did it pay off. He has nothing to do with animals now. But when he was younger, that was his passion. And I actually, again, it's something I write about. He would find animals wherever we went. We go to Denny's. He would come out of the men's restroom with his, from like, Damon, take your brother to the bathroom. He'd come out with a bullfrog. I'm like, okay, only Adam would find a bullfrog inside a Denny's. And then he would take it outside to a place in the parking lot, tell it, hey, don't go near the car, whatever he's going to tell it. He's a little kid. But he started he goes, hey, I found a snake that was in a cat's mouth. it needs to be hospitalized. So I got him 2 55-gallon tanks. One was a hospital, one was for his own little critters that we bought at the pet store. And when he didn't save all of the animals, so we had a graveyard, which even that taught him some things. But on the ones he saved, we would take it to the local woods and I would pay him $3 to set it free. So again, he's making money and he's learning, I'm going to take distilled water and I'm going to pour it over this frog that's clearly been stuck in an oil well or whatever. And I'm going to detox it that way. This is my son who was 9 talking detox. I never said those words when I was 9. But I'm like, figure it out. I'm not going to figure that out for you. This is your passion. Figure it out, but I will pay you because I don't want all of these things in my house. And that was a deal. 1 month, I paid him $30. He made $30 from me. And that was like, he's like, okay, all right. I'm like, anyway, to me, that was the talent of homeschooling.
And how was it for your schedule? I think a lot of people get caught bogged down in this, that it's either going to be 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. all day long, 5 days a week. I mean, how did you make this work in terms of you've got the flexibility? Maybe you're watching kids while other parents are at work, but how long of what's a school day like
school
in that
day is
world?
9 until 2. Again, with the 3 breaks.
Okay.
9 until 2. And really the 3 subjects that were stressed the hardest was reading, writing, and math. The other ones I'm looking at when they were little. You know, you can work science in with projects. You can work, you can do projects with that. Like, let's go for a walk. We're going to find living things and non-living things. Do you guys know what a comet is? You know, because also what's happening in the world contributes to that learning. Like, you're not, to me, I wasn't set on Monday, we're going to do planets. On Tuesday, we're going to do this. On Wednesday, I'm like, guys, you know what's happening tonight? It is a solar eclipse. We are going to learn about this. And they'd make their little things and we would do it around that. And they learned like tremendous amounts that way. So again, the problem with that is I have to come up with it. And that's going to lead me to, if you don't mind, what I write about in my book and why I wrote my book. So my children turned out well. They almost had no choice, really. They almost had no choice, but they turned out well. They're intelligent. They're all doing their thing, making their money, making their way. But I'm not done. I turned my homeschool into a private school and I hired more people, and it's small. I have like 40 kids, 50 kids. I have room for next year, which sometimes I don't. This year I do. But it's small and I want to keep it small because I like that intimate connection. However, the kids that are coming in now, I have 6th graders. I have 16-year-olds that can't do 100, take away 81. Because the school system has given them special accommodations on, they get to use calculators in kindergarten on all tests all the way up to high school. They get a reading pen, which I show a picture of it in my book. A reading pen, if like my son, this didn't exist back when he was little. He struggled with phonics. So they give him a pen that's like shaped like a cigar and it's got the head of a fox on it or an octopus. It's cute. It's cute. And you go like this with the words and it reads to you. So now the children don't have to know the alphabet. And they can use that for tests. And I'm like, what are we doing? We're making these kids stupid. There's no standard anymore. And there's one thing, I don't know how this is in other states, but there's a thing for a child that's labeled with anything, dyslexia, bipolar, learning disability, unspecified, which is just a huge umbrella term that they don't know what to do. And then you have, it's called an IEP, the individual education program. Sometimes it's called a plan, sometimes it's whatever, but I'm sure every 50 states has this protocol where after the child's been interviewed, prodded, and checklisted, now the experts get together and they put together this plan. I'm not saying that some kids don't need it, but the majority that come into my school with an IEP, the IEP is just bogus. And this one page on this is the teacher's standard. I forget what they call it, but it's like they always have big words that mean nothing. You know, the standard of blah, blah, blah. And it tells you, like, I'll use your name. Charlie will be able to read an English passage at grade level and answer the questions with 70% accuracy. He'll be able to do grade level math and answer the question with 70% accuracy. He will behave 70% of the time. I'm like, what is that? And I've had the social workers, the psychologists come to my school and confront me on this because I'm like, this is bogus. They're like, it is not. I'm like, good, go get a manicure and get 70% accuracy and tell me how much you like it. Or when you get your kitchen remodeled, 70% was what you wanted. Or order a meal at a restaurant, for Christ's sake. I don't know about you, but I want 100% accuracy. And when I taught my child how to cross the street, it wasn't with 70% accuracy. I'm like, my son was going to get labeled because he was 70% inaccurate. And now the standard is 70% accuracy anyway, just with the side order of drugs.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't subscribe to that. And that's the school system. That's our school system now. Calculators, reading pens. Oh, do AI. Like, I don't want AI. I want the child to be able to formulate a sentence or a paragraph without the help from anything. Nothing.
What are you seeing as in the aftermath of Common Core? Because this has been like a science project, unfortunately, for kids. I remember when Bill Gates was pitching it and he was talking about how it was going to be fantastic and kids were going to be advanced mathematically. And now we're getting reports from college admissions saying that the average student who is starting in college math is actually starting two classes behind where they should be, the standard freshman math for college applicants, that they're essentially 2 years behind that. And we have half of adult Americans reading under a sixth grade level, just in society as a whole. So what have you seen with the Common Core?
The same thing. And I will challenge the 2 years behind. 2 years behind would be a luxury in my life. These kids, yes. Ooh. I have not enrolled a high schooler, not one, in the last 15 years who is at a high school level. They were all around third or fourth grade. And that puts a tremendous strain because they can't do word problems. They can't think. They don't know their multiplication. And I'm like, guys, this is not hard. Third grade for me, again, 1972, 73, we spent one whole year learning our multiplication tables and division. I don't think we touched fractions. Mm-hmm. It was multiply, divide. And then we learned 3-digit multiplication. We learned the long division, but that was third grade. Second grade, you learned cursive. You learned addition and subtraction and a little bit of multiplication and division. It was this slow gradient of mastery, which is no longer done. There is no mastery anymore. 70% accurate. And then it's like with all the money that's being poured in, it's heartbreaking because I have a hard time. My school is small. This year, I dismissed 3 kids because they just wouldn't work. And I go back to, my parents were strict. If one of my teachers would have called my parents and said, hey, Barbara didn't do her work, I was going to get it. And now I tell a teacher, hey, he didn't bring his homework in. Well, did he? Or I tell a parent, hey, your son didn't bring the homework in. Well, did he really understand that it was due? And I'm like, okay, come on. Like, can we just stop the nonsense? Like, and I tell these kids, which I feel like I'm an old person now because my parents, that crazy rock and roll music, you know what I'm saying? Right. But I'm like, in my day, if you were a 14-year-old boy and you didn't have a job, you would not get a girlfriend. And when you were 16, you had to have a job and a car and you had to pay for it. And they look at me like, what? I go, what do you do all day? 8 hours of video games. Yeah. And I'm like, well, no one's going to hire you because of the hours you're logging in front of a TV. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a problem. And it manifests in a variety of fashions. I have a quote in my first book that I put out in 2017. It was from a lady named Amanda August, who is the curriculum coordinator for Common Core. And she was in front of a group of people, and she was having questions, and she was answering them. And the topic came up about math, Common Core math, and she was trying to explain to these people, I'm presumably sober, though I don't know how you could make this argument sober. She was saying that, they were talking about 3 times 4. 3 times 4 equals 12. Yeah, but if 3 times 4, if they write that it equals 11, we're more concerned with the process and how they came to that answer and why they came to it. And we're going to give partial credit for 3 times 4 equaling 11 as long as you're able to show your work. And they talked about punishing or needing, the ability to show your work when, and if you didn't show your work, you were going to get it all wrong. When some kids are like 3 times 4 is 12. Show my work. What are you talking about? It is what it is. It's that. I can show you all day long. It's not 11. And you're telling me I'm going to get partial credit for showing you that it's wrong, but I'm going to get no credit if I just happen to memorize it and know that it's right. And she said her explanation was, we're more concerned with the how and the why than we are with the answer being correct. And I thought, well, good luck with your bridges being built in the future, driving over those. We thought it might, this is insanity. Are you seeing the same thing with math?
That's that whole psychobabble. And I'm like, what I told my children that when they were growing up, which it was interesting because we would do math, you do math pages, right? But then we play games and we get along great until the Parcheesi game or the Risk game comes out. Then we are like out to kill each other. But my youngest son, he was so gifted in mathematics. Now, to be fair, he hated school. He's like, I don't want to do school. So after I'd put the kids to bed, I would handwrite and hand draw his math for when he was in kindergarten. Like super simple. And he loved it. And then I put together this whole little math program and he did it. And it was like, if you get to the end of the first book and you can't count to 5, you can just do it again. And when he would get through the first book, he'd get a lollipop, which I wasn't heavy on sugar, but he liked that lollipop. And he goes, I'm not sure I can count to 5, so I want to do it again. So he did the entire kindergarten thing like 3 or 4 times. And then when I would announce him, I'm like, and Michael, for the 5th time, finished the kindergarten book B. And he's like, I would like to thank the Academy. Like, he's trying to just waste so much. The thing is when he grew up a bit, but when he went to 1st grade, he skipped 1st grade completely, went into 2nd grade. And when he would, I'm like, your mind is the fastest computer. If you can get that answer like that, go for it. And there would be times when, we're playing Parcheesi and he gets this and he sends somebody back and now he has 40 and he would just pick up his piece and put it up the opposite board and his brothers would count. And he had it exactly where it was going because he was fast. And all this Common Core, if you're slowing a student down, we're doing harm. We're doing harm, which again, I want to get back to. So in my book, I talk about a statistic that you brought up, like currently it's like 54% of the United States adults read at or below a 6th grade level. So that means we have
crazy.
Like I would never leave a middle schooler to run things, but that's basically what we have in this country. Right. unintelligent people having to make very responsible decisions. So in looking back, like this is what I want to do with the rest of my life, is looking back, the United States was number one educationally in 1910. This was before Rockefeller brought the psychologists and the psychiatrists in to handle education. Education was doing fine. So I'm like, all right, what do I do? Because when I was raising my kids, I used old books. At least things that because I didn't have all of that psychology in my classroom. In my classroom, my little brother, 2 years younger than me, it had already entered in. And my mom was furious, like, I don't know why they're trying to teach it this way. So I have collected over 500 textbooks from 1910, mid 1800s. Some of them come up to 1950. This is 1883. This is a math book. And the philosophy back then is 100% different than it is now. It was you educated for mastery, and you educated in the realm of the child's interest, knowing that he says, I'm going to grow up to be a firefighter. That might not happen. We don't care. But he has a motivation. What do we know he needs to do? He needs to be able to read. He needs to be able to write. He needs to do math because it all aligns. So if you give him reading and writing and math, and if you're homeschooling him and safely go to the yard and set something on fire and having burnt, water it or whatever, we're good. He's gonna grow into his career, whether he's a firefighter or not. He could want to grow up to be a Ninja Turtle. Well, we want an effective Ninja Turtle when they're 5, right? And what I want to do, and really the reason I wrote my book is one, because I'm so frustrated. Like, it was hard for me to do what I did. I'm a mom. I'm a single mom. I had no support. So, and I did it. And my kids, rock solid. Love them. And they appreciate what I did for them. But now I'm like, okay, so do I retire with zero retirement? Because homeschooling isn't like, hey, I want a Ferrari. I think I'll start homeschooling, like that's not your financial way of making it. I'm like, what am I going to do? And what I want to do is I want to bring these books back and make them into a curriculum that is user friendly, that is non-religious, because I don't want to cater to just one group. If you want to add Jesus to it, by all means do. But it's going to have the definitions of the words. It's going to be laid out on the gradient that it used to be laid out on. This used to be how kids were taught to read. Simple.
Yeah.
We don't need rocket scientists. And honestly, this is another slant. I don't want to kill colleges, but I'm not impressed with the people that they are turning out to be certified teachers, because they're certified in mental health or certified in ADHD drugs and all of the ways a person can be wrong. And I'm like, I don't want that. I want you to be able to teach that child fractions so that he understands it for the rest of his life. And to understand fractions, I think there's like 18 words. And if they know the words and they can demonstrate it, and you can give them a donut, they can cut it in half and then bring in 2 friends and cut it in other equal parts, they get it. And then you have them have a bake sale. If they make money, they did math correctly. If they didn't, well, let's go back to the textbook. But we have to have real life scenarios, even when they're 5 or 4. And it can't be this pressure cooker stress. Oh, what's the test level? Oh, did he get through this? Oh, he's got to write a book report when he's 5. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah. I think there's a big difference between education and schooling.
Yes.
And schooling can be brutal, and not one size does not always fit all. Kids are different culturally, just in every way. I think that I'm in agreement with you on the university not just the students that are going through there and what they're being indoctrinated in, but of course the system itself, the educators, they're in a very weird sort of, it's just the system that's set up to protect teachers is so antiquated, and it winds up protecting some of the worst teachers and embeds them into institutions where you can never get them out of there. They're like ticks that you can't remove without massive lawsuits here and there. But I've never been very impressed with the teachers, in part because you can tell they're extremely hardcore leftists in that ideology. I remember telling my daughter, who's 13 and about to go into high school this year, she's talking about colleges and where she wants to go. I'm like, look, just as long as you don't become a communist in college, that's going to be a victory for me. I don't. My bar is set rather low, but I have. I think that this is really inspiring for people who have been told, or maybe even feel like they can't do it. They want to educate their kids. They don't know really where to start, or they I don't know calculus. How am I going to be able to teach my kids calculus when it comes to that time? But really, you just need to start the process of really get them out of the school system, especially the compulsory school system is very dangerous. As you mentioned, the Rockefeller fingerprints all over that in the late 1800s, early 1900s with Carnegie and Rockefeller. And now the new iteration of that, millionaire so-called philanthropists that have bought everything with a price tag on it. Now they're going to look for things that aren't actually for sale. And whether it's Rockefeller creating a whole new batch of kids who are listening for the bell to go off in their classroom, which mimics the workshops and factories that they'll eventually go to work in once he gets done. And Bill Gates having ideas of, we're going to reimagine education, especially with Common Core math, and you're going to need to be a programmer, and maybe you don't need to know that 3 times 4 equals 12. As long as you can bullshit your way through it and give some teacher an answer, you'll get partial credit. I have big fears about this, about the compulsory schooling system, but I am optimistic when I meet people like you who are doing it, not just talking about it, but actually doing it, and didn't listen to all the people that maybe even had good points to tell you why you shouldn't do this. You're not this, you're not that, you're not that. Yeah, I'm none of those things, but I'm still going to do it anyway. I think it's refreshing for people. What's the response been from people in your orbit that have been inspired to either have their kids homeschooled or even start their own little mini schools?
I've started a few. I've helped people start a few. I had a businessman in Seattle, Oregon. And he flew me up and he's like, what am I looking at? I want to start a school. I'm like, you're looking at funding the whole thing for 3 years. You need a building, you need the salaries, you need the permits, all of it. And he had that kind of money. And I go, and you're looking for 3 years because it takes, your word of mouth is going to be your best campaign. Like, you can't fake the school. You can't fake a good kid. People are like I filled up because people knew I had a good reputation as a parent. They're like, oh yeah, Barbie's going to be the math teacher. Sign me up. I'll do it. No questions asked. Right. And then I just built upon that. Anyway, so this gentleman started a school in a church. He bought a church. He renovated it. I think his wife was an interior designer. They made the post into trees. It was gorgeous. Kindergarten to 5th grade. And he had it solvent in 2 years. But he was prepared as a businessman to take the 3 years. And he has since moved, but the school is still operating. And I'm like, wow. Well done. And that's him. Now, what I want to solve. Okay, so this gets into the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation, I have all of this stuff in my head. I've done it. I want to turn my school over. My daughter will take it. But then I have no job. What I want my job to be is taking these books and putting them into a form that the people that don't know if they can do it, Or even if they're one of these adults with the 6th grade level, they're going to be able to get their kids through, because we have 2 things that we're going to accomplish. There's actually more. 2 things. We will correctly educate the next generation, and we're going to fix the education of the current generation. The standard is 100%. I'm going to lay out the games that you get. Everything's going to be super simple because that's how it has to be. And I've been doing this for years. And early on, I probably spent thousands of dollars that I could not afford to waste on, here's a handwriting thing. And it was garbage. Or here's a math program. And it was garbage. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, let's do one thing at a time. I'll tell you, there was a little girl that came to my school. And this just tells you, this is recent. This little girl who is an artist, you would want her as your daughter, as your granddaughter, gorgeous, bright, happy little girl. My name's Barbie. In my office at school, I have a whole Barbie collection. And she's like, very engaging. Her parents took her out of traditional school because she was 4. And her assignment for social studies, why do we have a 4-year-old studying social studies? Don't know. But the assignment was she had to do a presentation on one of those big foam boards that are the fold-out presentation on how Gerald Ford got the presidency. And it had to be a time limit. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, what? I couldn't believe it. And here was the teacher. And again, I don't want to knock teachers. I feel that teaching done right is the most creative form of art. Parenting done right is the most creative form of art you can do. There's no canvas, and I paint all the time, no canvas that matches impacting somebody else with education correctly. That's amazing. But here's this little girl. She goes, I just want to play, and I'm like, she's 4. She's 4.
She didn't want to get into the geopolitics of the former Nixon administration and lay out.
Here was the teacher, but this is the standard. And the good teachers quit. The ones that are looking for what I'm doing, where there's really no money in it. That's also the problem. So going back to what I want to do is I wrote the book because I need to fund this. And I have not had success of like, hey, Bill Gates, fund me, because this is what I'm talking about is bringing back literacy. Like we're going to bring it back to where we could get number 1 again. No devices, no BS, none of the psychobabble, reading, writing, and math. And we can put in spelling, and we're going to do all of that. I have 500 textbooks that are wonderful from that time period. So I wrote a book, and I don't just rant on the school system, though I rant pretty hard. This middle section is like a horror story. And there are things that will make you cry because it's true. And then at the end, I'm like, this is how I solved it in my life. And this is how we can solve it big time. So let's just throw a number out. If I sold 1 million books, I'm doing it through Amazon because I don't have a publisher, whatever it is. A book is $19.99. I get, I think, $6 or $5 out of that. Sell enough of them. Now I have money to fund myself, turn over the school, fund 2 people to come in, because with 40, 50 kids, that's not enough to live in Miami anyway. The rents here is incredible, but it gets me started. And that puts me at a point of causation, if that makes sense. Because I'm not somebody who's like, well, if somebody would just give me money, then I could do this. Oh, if I wasn't a single mother, I probably could have been a better homeschooler. I can't play that route. I can't let myself go down that depressing hole of victimhood. So I need to solve it. And I'm not trying to like get a pat on the back, but I truly do need to solve it because I feel I have the experience and I haven't been spoiled with mainstream education.
Yeah, and these teachers are required to play the game of getting credentialed and going and getting their masters, and all this is doing. That's great. Of course, you would like for your teacher to be educated, of course. But the problem is, in the world that we live in, they're just digging student loan debt holes deeper and deeper and deeper. And now you've got a teacher who's already not getting paid what they should be paid, but they have massive financial aid hanging over their head. In a system like yours, you could theoretically not need the extensive graduate school degrees from your teachers, provided that you got a teacher who was coming in pure of heart and thought and mind, and was qualified for the job, but maybe didn't see the benefit in that. I wonder if you could find some teachers that weren't swimming in massive amounts of student loan debt to work with you.
Well, I'll tell you, it's like my policy at school, and I'm very strong on this, and it's on my website. I don't hire certified teachers, and it has nothing to do with money. It takes me too long to uneducate them. Again, on my plan of what I want to do, what I want to solve, how I solve this, is also putting together a teacher training program that is not like whatever that is. I want you to be able to call attendance. I want you to know the basics of geography, the basics of math, the basics of this. And I'm going to give it to you because I'm going to assume you really didn't get it. And it's not hard. It's not hard when you bring it down to definitions of words, demonstrate activities, and come up with your projects. Like for me, an internship for a teacher would be you get them in and they have to do all of the tasks. They have to call attendance. Did they do it correctly? Maybe they call it 3 times. Correct. They have to plan a field trip with the proper forms, making sure insurance, all of those check boxes. They have to do it. So now they know how to do it. They have to be able to sit with somebody who is maybe 6 years old or maybe 16 years old who doesn't know how to add and subtract. And they have to one-on-one them to teach them to move their grade level up. That's what I want. I want that passion and that interest in the human. I could care less what your certificate says, because in my son's case, it was the certified system that destroyed him.
But you may have to do a little backtracking with some of the 16-year-olds who can't, do their math. But in this homeschool system, you can make up a lot of ground very quickly, and you can leapfrog years past people. So even if I want people out there to just remind them, if you've got a child who is, say, delayed or a couple years behind, that doesn't mean that they're going to be a couple years behind forever. In these homeschooling system, they have the opportunity to make tremendous progress, and not only progress, but maybe just get them out of a situation that is designed to really harm children. I think compulsory schooling in the public school system, which I have been instructed to refer to as government schools, because it sounds worse when you do it that way, as opposed to public schools, which makes it sound like a library or something like that. I want them to think of government cheese when they think of government schools, and all the low quality materials that you get whenever the state is involved, whether it's giving you prison jumpsuits or whatever it is. It's always going to be a one size fits all. It's never going to work for you. It's going to be low quality and handled by the state. And I think that for parents out there that feel held hostage by this system, it's really great to have you explain that you can do it, and that these barriers that people think to, parents, that they can't, you're not qualified to be a teacher. Well, maybe I don't want to be the sort of teacher that you currently have that's getting criteria and is thinking that the only way to solve problems is with medication and whatnot. So I think it's inspiring for people to know that they can do this, and that they've got to get honest with themselves, and they've got to get serious, and they've got to get a plan. Sounds like you had a pretty good plan going in there.
Well,
There's nothing more ferocious.
I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing.
You worked it out.
I worked it out.
Wow.
And it's never going to be perfect. And you can't wait. I had a choice. I was going to try to fix the school system. Like with my son, like I say, I did his homework with him, and I was contributing to his downfall. And while I'm sitting at the dining room table spending 2 hours on mindless homework. My other 3 children, they needed their mom. So I'm taking their brother away from them. They're taking their mom away from them. We're not getting our playtime. And so then it puts stress in the family. I don't need that. I need my son. Yeah. And again, I'm not the coddling type to feel he's brilliant. Because when you have that confidence, the information that you're going to impart goes in so much easier. They're willing to accept it. And if they're not on board with it, you've lost your child. And learning is really, to me, it comes just down to communication. How many people potty train their kids? If you can do that, you can teach them math. If you have the patience for that, you can teach them math. You can teach them to read. I want to give the materials that makes it easier. Because this is the book that I wrote is the book I needed when I started. And it lends itself to more because there's going to be something coming more on exclusive for homeschoolers. And then I really want to say, okay, good. You want handwriting? This is handwriting for kindergarten. Or, and I don't know how much this would cost, but you have a 5-year-old, here's everything you need. Simple. You're going to need crayons. You need a space. And here's the proposed schedule. You're going to run it however you are. If they're a 5-year-old gymnast and you're studying after dinner, go for it.
Yeah.
But the materials.
I think it's key. Inspiring.
Thank you. The materials are key.
And the materials, this world that we're living in is changing so much now with electronic devices and the way people or the way kids are being made to use them. I suppose in some regards, that's the evolution of things, and they should understand how it works. I'm a bit concerned about devices. That it seems like there's a monster in there if you allow it to capture your kids. You can lose them to their devices, which I think is very dangerous. Have you? Let's wrap up with this, and then we'll. But what is your policy these days as we move into this digital world? Is this something that you can incorporate in and teach the kids like moderation and how to use them, and maybe like not be dependent on the calculator all the time, or is this something where
we just don't allow them in the school? No. The only students that are allowed to use calculators are scientific calculators for Algebra 2 and above. But I'll tell you, if you're in my school and you finish Algebra 1, you can tutor Algebra 1. You can define the words, you know why you use it, and you're brought into that. And people say like, oh, well, he'll never use this math. I'm like, that's a lie. Because his problem solving, like, oh, I'm hungry. Mom, I'm hungry. Like, get up and solve it. That's a problem. That's a problem that you are going to have to solve. So solve it. And that comes from that math mind, like looking at something scientifically. And when you look at something scientifically, a lot of the stuff that's on TV right now is just bullshit. And you can see it. And what's fascinating is, like my teenagers at school, I'm not going to say they're all A students or whatever, but man, they got a good head on their shoulders. They know that if they want a car, they're going to go out and they're going to get a job to buy that car. They're not sitting there, oh, the government should pay me. None of them.
Right. Nobody's nobody's ever asked me what my grades were after I got out into the real world. Did you solve the problem of getting through school, getting through college? Yes. Can you commit to something over the long term? Yes. Can you solve problem? Good. That's what we want to see. What was your math score your sophomore year? Who knows? Who cares? It doesn't matter in the real world. I love to see kids. I love to see kids solving these problems. I love to see them breaking out of the system. We need this, the idea that kids are saddled with ADHD. Boy, you know what? Save that for somebody else. I mean, kids are amazing and they're resilient, and you should never give up on them because there's so much of I know plenty of kids who weren't the best in school, but they were great in other areas, and they have successful lives. And I think our barometer for success is not always defined by what your grades are coming out of school. The book is called Enough is Enough. You mentioned it's available on Amazon, Barbie Rivera. Yes. Barbie, where can people find you? Where can people find the book elsewhere, or where can they connect with you?
BarbieRivera.com.
BarbieRivera.com is the place to go. If this book appeals to you, grab it. If you think there's somebody in your life who could benefit from this book, buy it and send it to them. There's not enough people reading books these days. Unfortunately, I say this as an author myself. I've had to turn them into audiobooks just to make sure I capture that audience as well, because unfortunately, we're talking about literacy rates. Yes. we all know we're trying to sell books in a world of sixth grade reading education. It's not the greatest, but I feel inspired. I love the idea of homeschooling or unschooling, as it were, and this is a tremendous resource. Thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. That's Barbie Rivera, everybody. You can go to BarbieRivera.com and check her out. If you want to, you can go to Amazon and buy her books. If you want to connect with me, you can do that. It's pretty easy. You can go to macroaggressions.io and find information on the books, the podcasts, the news sites, and all that good stuff. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.